Hello again, Jeremy here. And as the name of my channel says, I'm just thinking out loud again. I've recently made an observation about our society with all the craziness and crap going on lately. Especially online, like how people are treating each other online, how people are interacting online. And it's really starting to get disturbing. And I've been doing a lot of thinking to why, what's gone wrong? Where have we gone wrong with our use of this new technology, the internet, social media? And I think I made a realization to one of the problems. And that is one of the problems with modern society is we are trying to appease the collective persona of social media rather than using social media as a means for enriching individual connections. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, we have each become a simple link within a massive interconnected web. It's the same as our brain. Now, our brain is made up of millions of neurons, these little tiny neurons, all interconnected, firing at different times, doing different things, but that collection of neurons comes together to produce our brain. And our mind, our thoughts, our consciousness, our emotions, all of that arises from this collective interaction of all these neurons. And in the same way, put the mic too close. In the same way, our social online experience has mimicked that same dynamic as our brain. Meaning each of us is like a neuron. We fire, we do things, but we're interconnected with a bunch of other neurons. And all of this interconnectedness between all of us through social media and online has created this massive singular online persona. And we are trying to appease this online persona. Whatever the social media persona presents us, we're trying to appease that as if it was a real thing. But it's not a real thing. It's made up of all of us as individuals. And yet it has its own personality. It has its own dynamics. And we're treating it as a person, and we're trying to appease it. We're trying to make it happy. Like we're children and this is our parent. And we're trying to figure out, well, what should I do so I don't get in trouble? We don't want to be punished by social media. We don't want to be held back by social media. We want to make social media happy so that we get rewarded by social media. And that is a child-parent dynamic. We have a child-parent dynamic between ourselves and social media, the online reality we've created. And it's based on the idea of collectivism. It's the idea that the whole is more important than the individual part. And we have become a simple link within this massive interconnected web. And the problem with that is, just like with our brain, you know, thousands and thousands of neurons are dying all the time. An individual neuron in our brain is not that important. The important part is the brain as a whole. So we're using that same idea in our view of social media. We think that the whole takes, is more important than any singular individual part, but those singular individual parts are us. They're humans. They're real people, and we've lost touch with that. And again, it's this collectivism focus. And don't get me wrong, collectivism is a great idea on paper. I mean, the idea of taking care of everyone as a whole is a wonderful idea. The idea of, looking at humanity as a whole and looking at society as a whole and taking care of all of society and all of humanity at the same time is a wonderful idea. It's an idea that should be pursued as much as possible, but not when it takes away our understanding and our perception of individuals. Collectivism has unforeseen predicaments. It has unforeseen problems, because the more you shift to collectivism, the less value each individual is given or perceived to have. And if you get too much collectivism, then each individual is seen as not having any value in of themselves. Just like with the brain and a neuron, each neuron isn't that valuable by itself. It's expendable. You can throw it out. There's, millions more to replace it. And we've developed that mindset with our online experience. We've dehumanized the internet. We've dehumanized social media. And that is because it's filtered through this lens of collectivism. And not only has it infected our views through social media and our online interactions, what we're seeing now play out in the news and throughout our country and throughout the world, what we're seeing is this same mindset that we've created for our online interactions is spilling out into our real world interactions. Because we look at people through that collectivism filter online, and we can dehumanize the person on the other end of the computer or our cell phone or whatever it might be, we develop that viewpoint that it's this collective idea. It's not an individual person you're talking to or interacting with online. And once you have that mindset, then you go out in the real world and you take that same mindset with you. And that's what we're seeing. These groups of people are going out and they're attacking other people, and they're just being vicious and destructive and downright evil in some cases. And it's because we have lost that individual connection. We've lost our authentic connection with other people. We've massively overdone artificial connections with other people. I mean, we have close friends that we connect with, but when you're interacting with people outside your small circle, we don't see them as individuals anymore. We see the people in our circle. Those are our friends and family. But the people outside that circle, we no longer see them as people. We've grouped everyone together into these groups. And this is bad. This is a serious problem. We got to shift away from this collectivism perception and interaction online, and we have to fix that because we're now doing that same thing in the real world. When you dehumanize everyone outside your little group, it becomes very easy to engage in violence and destruction and disgusting acts and evil acts. We we need, without an individualistic perception of reality, both online and in the real world, we're just diminishing our true connections. And this causes us to assume too many things. We group people together, race and this and that, and cops and non-cops and government people and politicians and Democrats and Republicans and whatever group you want to group people in. Once you assume that the person you're interacting with is just part of a group, you're no longer interacting with that person. You're interacting with your perceptions of that group. That group, as a collective, is the thing you're interacting with. Do you understand that? You're not interacting, a lot of us, with an individual at that point. You're interacting with a group persona that you perceive as reality. And you make a lot of assumptions about that group. Meaning anyone you have put in that group, anyone you believe belongs to that group, you make a whole list of assumptions about that individual because you think they're part of this group. And we do this with race, we do this with politics, we do this with religion, we do this with gender, we do it with intelligence, nationality. You name it, we do it with every group you can possibly conceive of. And we're interacting with groups. We're not interacting on an individual basis. We have to get back to the point of individualism. The United States of America was founded and based on the idea of the individual. Individualism, the idea that each person has value in of themselves, and that each person is unique, and that if you want to connect with that person, you need to find out what makes them who they are, not what group they happen to belong to. So the divide's always been between individualism and collectivism. I've said that for years. And we're seeing this playing out in the world in a massive way. People that have become obsessed with collectivism are dividing this nation. And they have good intentions. Don't get me wrong. A lot of these groups have good intentions at their foundation. Black Lives Matter. They have good intentions. But they're still operating based on this collectivism idea that blacks and cops and whites, and that it's grouping. So you're not dealing with that individual. If you're a Black Lives Matter person, you're not dealing with people. You're dealing with, okay, cops, that group, whites, that group. Whatever group you want to create and clump people together in, that's your interaction. Even the extremists have some good intentions. I mean, the communists who I'm vastly against, they believe what they're doing is for the betterment of people, because they believe in this collectivism utopia that they're hoping to get to someday. But collectivism is, like I said before, is a great idea on paper. But once you put it into practice, it's got so many flaws. We have to get back to the individual. Each person responsible for their own actions, not a collective guilt from the people that have gone before us. You know, the sins of our forefathers. No, that's a collective idea. Oh, well, you're white, so you have to be guilty for what people in your group did generations ago. No, that's ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. People should be judged on their character, their actions, what they do, and what they convey to the world. Each person as an individual. If we don't get back to that mindset, we're going to see more and more of what we're seeing today. Extremist groups, a divided nation, anger, destruction, violence, evil, all of that. That is a byproduct of this collective ideology. And again, it has good intentions, great intentions, but it's fundamentally flawed. If we don't get back to the level of the individual, if we don't allow people the freedom and liberty to live their life as an individual and to hold each person accountable for them, what they have done as a person, then we are going to continue to move in the wrong direction. So, yeah, we gotta... It's so disheartening. It's so frustrated. Gotta get back to seeing people as people. We're dehumanizing others by grouping them together. So, shift away from collectivism. It's a great idea on paper, horrible in practice. We need to move back to what this nation was founded on, and that's individualism, individual rights, liberties, individual responsibility. So, again, my name's Jeremy, and this is just me thinking out loud. Have a great day.